live here, gang, the VTF and on YouTube, but we're going to officially start in about a minute. Yeah, I do both at the same time. It was giving me some problems the last couple of weeks. The computer couldn't really handle all the software at the same time, but I think it's better now.
Anybody knows how to fucking short the smart should be
Especially when you look at a lot of the stocks out there. It's brutal. Pat, are you able to post the link into the room? All right, gang, let's get started. First, the disclosure here. I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Quick position disclosure here. All right. All right. So we closed up about 0.3% today in the SPYs. Certainly don't feel like it. And Qs are flat. IWM is down 0.25%. So our indices here closed pretty neutral. But let's take a look at some charts because this feels pretty damaging to me. So we know as of yesterday's close that short-term tactical sentiment indicator that we like to look at was kind of in that buy zone, and that thing does seem to be relatively accurate. I don't just come in and do a ton of buying just because that's in the buy zone, but it's definitely something that we pay attention to. But of course, you got to be a little bit careful. I'm sure you guys remember back during the coronavirus crisis, a whole bunch of indicators there were indicating buys for quite a while as the market continued to go down. So it's definitely not the end-all, be-all. But it's one of the things that we pay attention to. And then today, having a consolidation day for the market, I view that as more bearish than bullish. It consolidates the downside price action from yesterday. Now, we haven't broken the previous pivot low from last Monday, which I keep referencing for the S&P, which is 428.86. If we start breaking below 428.86, then we're starting to confirm a little bit more of actually being in a downtrend for the market for the S&P. The NASDAQ did. We still basically closed at 360, so we don't have the confirmation of the close. We kind of tailed below it and came back up, which actually isn't a terribly bearish thing when you close above but tail below, because it kind of puts some more shorts in, it shakes out some more longs, but we managed to close above. But still, I really don't like the technicals that we're looking at with this bit of a rest day today for the S&P. What's the Iwm look like? Yeah, Russell's still kind of very much in this more neutral category, though. So Qs are looking almost bearish to me. SPYs, I guess, are neutral, but the internals of these candles are bearish, and the IWM is a bit neutral as well. So we'll continue to monitor that. It's definitely become a two-way market here, and it's been a bit more difficult to get some follow-through on some of the trades that we've been looking at, unless you're focused on something that is, very heavily in play. I did think that we had some really good opening drive trades as a team. But again, we really got to just pay attention to this market because it looks like we're setting up for an inside day and down. I'd love a big gap down tomorrow, Me and Scott Ruther were just talking about it a little bit into the close, and he kind of agrees with me that if we get like a small gap up tomorrow, somewhat similar to today, that's actually the most difficult kind of trading scenario. And Pat had also mentioned earlier when he was on the radio, like if we get a gap up to 438, maybe that's a signal to be able to put on your cute shorts. That's actually what I was thinking about today. I mentioned that in the morning meeting, that if we could have had our gap up be a little bit bigger than it actually was this morning, if we could have been closer to somewhere between 438 and 440, maybe not as high as 440, but like that 438, 439 zone, I think that would have been a great opportunity to potentially put on some shorts versus the Maribozu high of 440. So bulls really need to get the SPYs back above 440, and bears seem to be at least short time frame in control here as they set us up with this rest day that negates kind of that, short term oversoldness of the market and potentially sets us up for even lower prices. So things are not looking great, honestly. Really, ever since we kind of broke our uptrend here, we're not officially in a downtrend for the S&P, but it's definitely not a bullish market like it was. So we will continue to monitor all that. I did think, I just mentioned this, I did think that we had some pretty good opening drive trades this morning, though none of them gave great follow-through on a closing basis, which is unfortunate. For me, SOFI is an opening drive trade here. I bought a bunch around 16 quarter, caught this whole move going positive. It was looking fantastic. It was looking like they were totally going to digest that news. Okay, fine, it has a technical pullback. All right, here is a little bit further than I would like, but they finally try to bounce it. But then this breaking its opening lows and closing at lows, that's no good. This SOFI really needs to hold 16. 16 was the price I mentioned that I was using as my stop loss for kind of this opening drive trade. It closed right at 16 and closed at lows. That's not setting you up to be able to hold this level pretty well, but it did make for kind of a decent opening drive type trade. I still had this SUMO on my radar. SUMO, $16 is a really big support level going back to May, and it was extended into it. I looked at it as a trade for yesterday, and it was actually kind of one of my better trades from yesterday, even though really almost everything I took yesterday kind of ended up failing. It was one of my better trades from yesterday because it held its opening low so much better than the market did or so many other stocks. Eventually, it did break it around 1245 or so, but I love extension into support. It was trying to show some relative strength. I figured I could go back to that name today because it still broadly held the area, and I felt it only pushed through yesterday just because of the market weakness. And same thing, I was able to get some stock almost at the opening low here, so a pretty good price. Caught this initial move, sold some stock into 1650, was able to kind of get the risk covered there. And then same thing, break its opening low, gets below 16, closes below 16. It's just incredible how massively beat up some of these stocks are. And that's one of the things we could definitely talk about is as this market is looking more bearish, and I've actually spent time talking about this over the course of the last several months because it's really been this way for a while. Even when the market was at all-time highs at the end of August and the very beginning of September, there just were so many stocks that we were looking at that just looked absolutely atrocious. And a lot of these companies are just in full-on bear markets, like that SUMO that I just spoke about. This had its earnings report back here, and it's just been selling off ever since. Teladoc, I know some of you guys have been looking at. I was looking at Teladoc as a technical buy above 140. It never triggered me in, and now this thing is just totally breaking down and getting below this really big 130 support. So this thing is at 52-week lows. It looks terrible. I know stocks like Zoom. I don't really trade this Zoom too much, but this thing had the big run on the coronavirus, which I felt was kind of overdone. But now this thing also breaking down, looking terrible. The DKNG, this thing just can't get out of its own way. I had spoken about, and Felipe said $48 was his spot. I kind of agreed with him that if we could get extension into $48, I think that DKNG could be a good buyable area. I didn't get involved in it today. It's very extended into that $48, but it closed so weak, and it didn't get down there until 12 o'clock, and it was just this grind lower that it's not giving me any signal to actually buy, even as the daily chart has just had a huge pullback here into this support and has a lot of extension on the small time frame. We're just not getting signals. So many of these charts are even broken like an AMD. Like this has been one of the best in breed stocks. This AMD crushed it. This move on the earnings report was fantastic. And then it was just starting to look better 2 trading sessions ago. Yesterday's negative Maribozu comes in, and it's back to looking not so good. Here at $100, having like a 20% pullback from its highs. And that's one of the better names that's out there. NIO was one that we looked at. I know some of you guys caught a decent opening drive trade in this NIO. I thought NIO was looking great, even though I wasn't involved in it. I thought NIO was looking great here once it was getting back above 36. So again, I know you guys were able to make some money on this and capture this move. And then look what this did. It closed terribly poor as well. NIO, again, I still don't think is broken. It's an inside day today. It's not totally broken until it gets below this 34.42 low. But I've been talking about this thing needs to be getting above and closing above 36. It did it 2 trading sessions ago, and it was looking so much better as a result. And now it looks terrible again, even though that was a decent opening drive. Netflix also really best in breed as far as big tech names go, as far as FANG stocks go. I had spoken about $600 as being a spot to be able to buy Netflix today. Had a big move into that 600, which always makes me a little bit nervous to actually pull the trigger there. But even with that, if you're pulling the trigger through 600, it's giving you $10 of upside, but also eventually would push you out on this trade because it gets below and closes below $600. So the point is basically this. We had some really good kind of opening drive type trades today as a team, and still none of them gave follow-through, which is what you're going to expect kind of when you're looking at this market. And that's with us being very selective, right? Right now, with how the market is situated, kind of neutral to bearish, depending upon the specifics of what you're looking at. It's a two-way market, but it's also a market where you really need to be very selective in what you're doing. And with that selectivity, we had some really good picks for opening drive type trades. They all gave moves that were big enough to be able to cover your risk, if not make money in it. And then every single one of them eventually rolled over and would have triggered your stop losses. So that's why you want to be implementing a game plan on your trading where you're making sure you're getting your risk covered on your trades. You're putting yourself in those win-win situations. So if those trades do roll back down, your worst case scenario is that it becomes a break-even trade. Or if you have enough size with a good enough game plan, your worst case scenario when they roll back down is that you still made money in the trade. You need to definitely be having that game plan in place and implementing those trailing stops, getting yourself stopped out, trying to raise your stop, as you can. Like this SOFI as an example, I was being really greedy with it. I never actually raised my stop. I did book a lot of profit in the way up though, to make sure that I was making money on this no matter what. I never really trailed kind of the more core position that I had, but you definitely could have raised your stop to the 10 a.m. low or the 9:45 a.m. low. So even on a trade like this that eventually is rolling over and kind of, closing poorly and probably stopping you out on your trade, if your execution is good, your game plan is good, even as this trade eventually comes back down and you're exiting your position, you're exiting for a profit. So in these more kind of difficult trading environments like we have found ourselves in here for September, it's all about execution and game plan. I say this type of stuff a lot, and we're seeing it now in this market environment as things have gotten a little bit trickier. When you're in a really easy market environment, like we had for quite some time, it's easy. So the market's very forgiving. You can make kind of execution mistakes, you can make kind of game planning mistakes, and you can really kind of get away with it and still eke out a good profit for yourself on your trades. When things get a little bit more difficult, like they are now, when you're getting mixed messages from the market, when you got to be much more selective of what you're doing, this is really when execution and game planning are key. You got to have the game plans in place to make sure that if you can catch a move like we got with SOFI this morning, that you're, no matter what, ending up profitable on that trade by having developed that game plan to get the risk covered, to implement some sort of trailing stop system or something like that. That's going to be all the difference maker in this type of environment on whether or not your P&L is, okay and you're still building, or it's not so good. You're executing late. You don't have a game plan to get your risk covered. You're taking losses in trades that should be break-even trades to winners, but you're taking losses in them because they didn't work out perfect. That's poor game planning. That's poor execution. So we really need to make sure that we're focusing on that. Outside of that, though, I really don't think it was too bad of a day here for the team, considering that it was, if you look at what the Qs did or you look at what the Spies did, you might think that today would be a difficult day and that, people would be losing money. But I think we were focused on the right spots when and where we needed to. And by having good game plans, being selective with the right names, really wasn't too bad of a day at all. But we'll see. This market is looking and feeling pretty dangerous to me. But again, some of these stocks are just so destroyed. So that's all I've got. I should have mentioned this earlier. I am on vacation tomorrow and Friday. So you guys are going to be with Patrick. Pat's going to be doing the meeting. So you guys are in luck to get a little flavor of Patrick. He should be able to still broadcast the afternoon meeting on YouTube tomorrow. I think that he is set up to be able to do that. I'm going to be trading from Idaho on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week because the laptop that I had purchased got stolen. I'm borrowing one from the tech guy here. So hopefully I don't have any tech issues. I'm a little bit nervous because it's not my computer. I'm also going to be off then again Thursday, Friday of next week, and then I'm back in New York. So I'm going out to Idaho for about 10 days or so. So I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning of the meeting. But yeah, like I said, happy to answer any any questions that you guys have. So first thing I'm seeing here is from Fish. As a swing trader, is it better to be sitting on my hands right now until the market picks a direction? It has been incredibly hard to hold trades overnight with the market's choppiness. I wish I knew where my glass of water was. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you have a defined approach to your swing trading. For me, I do a lot of swing trading and I do a lot of day trading. I really like my swing trades to come from win-win situations. So, for example, like some of those names that I was looking at today that gave those great opening moves and then rolled over, if I was initiating trades in those for the first time and they did that, that would be a signal for me to actually not keep it overnight. So, Fish, definitely, again, game planning is key right now. So don't swing positions if you're in a lose-lose situation. You want to be swinging those positions because you executed them, they're closing well, you have a good profit cushion, and your daily chart is telling you that everything's in the clear and everything's okay. If you're not actually getting that message from the market on the position that you put on, you're going to be better off just taking it off into the close. Your P&L is what it is on the position, but it's more of risk management at that point than anything else. So I think that you still, put your trades on. You got to be selective whether you're day trading or swing trading right now, and only actually keep that position overnight if it's giving you a message that you're in a win-win situation, and not that you're hoping that the market can hold up or hoping that the market gaps up or something like that. If you see yourself doing that on a position that you're keeping overnight, don't keep it overnight. Just get out of the way. You can always get back into it tomorrow and kind of reassess. So that'd be my answer to you on that. Yeah, Varun saying Zoom's at a 52-week low. Roku is at a 52-week low. A lot of these names are just extremely. Look at FedEx. FedEx here, just absolutely disgusting. So many names look like this right now. It's kind of crazy. That QS didn't close great today. QS was another one. So Jerry's saying QS was another one that we were speaking about this morning. It gave a great opening drive. There was good initial volume here. So just another name that we spoke about early on today that you could throw in the same list as SOFI, SUMO, NIO, NFLX, QS was another name for us. Great opening drive trade. Good execution, good game plan. There should be no way that you're losing money on this. So just make sure that you're really focused on that. Tech also. Yeah, this tech really wasn't on my radar in the same way as some of those other ones. I think it might have got mentioned in the morning meeting. Yeah, but same thing. And this is not a good looking daily candle. It didn't close well. You try to give an opening move and then rolls over making lows and kind of fails. Gabriel bringing up Palantir. Yeah, so Palantir, we saw bull flow hitting Palantir today. Is that accurate? Man, this thing they wrecked this stock over the course of the last couple of days. This thing has been looking pretty good here ever since mid-August. We highlighted how it was holding its gap up support when most of these other types of names, when they were moving higher, were failing. This one was not. So even though I'm not a big fan of this company, it broke out of this wedge to the upside, gave us a couple of good trades there. This thing is totally in the penalty box right now, but if anything, it's also oversold. There's so many names right now. Again, even though the market, the S&P today took a rest day, so the SPYs here are now less oversold because of their rest day. A lot of these stocks, man, look at this Palantir. These last 3 days is brutal, coming down to 24.50. Your ADMA is at 26.50. So you're looking at a $25 stock that's extended by $2. It's a pretty large degree of downside extension. I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I'm not actually short this name, but it is what it is. Next here from Kyle. Thank you for advising you against buying Apple 2 weeks ago. I was correct, and then you're giving me a little beer sign, so I hope that means that you owe me a beer because I will always take you up on that offer. Yeah, Apple, another one here. I actually thought that Apple held up pretty well yesterday, and then it was decently strong at points today. But when you look at this daily chart just still doesn't look great. It's trying to hold this 142 support area that goes back to early July, but it's an inside day today that, if anything, is setting you up for a break of this 142. So we'll pay attention to it, see how that inside day actually breaks. But again, I think that a lot of these names consolidating here aren't great. With Apple, though, it's a little bit of a battle. You got support at 142 that's trying to hold. You got this pressure that's coming on it from this bearish-looking price action in this inside day today. So we'll see if it's able to actually hold that 142 and break higher, or if it breaks that 142 and goes lower. I don't see a signal to buy until and unless we can get above today's high. If we can get above today's high, then I think Apple starts looking a little bit better. But for right now, you gotta stay away. Next here from Rich. How do you stay focused during these grindy days? I saw at 140, SPY stopped people out at the low of the day with volume and then came back to rally $2. I felt zoned out and tired watching the grind, and I didn't execute the buy. Sure, so let's take a look at the SPYs here. Yeah, so I think you're talking about right here when they kind of broke lows to push people out with volume. SPYs do tend to trade like this a lot. They love to just kind of push people out and then give the move in the other direction. The S&P can definitely trade a little bit sloppy. Look, I mean, the first thing I would say to you is you got to know yourself. It's important to know yourself. You don't want to be trading and putting money on the line when you're not mentally feeling 100%. So if you're feeling tired, you're feeling zoned out, you're feeling kind of grinded down, we all feel that way sometimes. I know after we did that open house last week, I was so worn out by the end of that, and I feel like it was actually starting to impact my trading decisions a little bit in not such a great way. You got to be able to understand yourself, know how you feel, and don't force it when you're not feeling it. I don't do a ton of midday trading. So for me, midday, I'm very rarely executing new trades midday. I'm really mainly just kind of doing position management, maybe a little cash flow stuff back and forth, or executing some trades if I really see something that gets me excited. New news is coming in, some big volumes coming in. We have a beautiful trend day, but most of the time, midday, and the statistics show this, right? I said this in an afternoon meeting a week or two ago. I've seen the statistics. I know that you guys are bleeding out money midday sometimes, and that's why I'm warning you guys not to do that. Don't be afraid to not trade midday. The price action typically becomes very sloppy. I probably do 85% of my trading in the first 45 minutes of the day or so. And then again, the rest of the day is really going to be primarily about position management or occasionally putting on something new if I'm seeing something that's giving me a strong advantage. But I'm looking at the SPY chart here that you're talking about midday. I see nothing to do. There's nothing to do here. Fine. If you took an opening trade today off this low, which we actually spoke about. I was on the radio at 9:45 and we filled the gap, and we were very closely looking at what the VIX was doing, right? Because I was concerned this morning that the VIX was positive and the market was positive. But we got this pivot high here in the VIX that led to the VIX going negative as the SPYs made this pivot low and really woke up. So if you were long versus this opening low, fine. You get pushed out, it just is what it is. Don't let it get in your head when you get pushed out and then it immediately goes higher. You're working in a game of probabilities. I don't think there was any trade here. The only reason you should have been in the SPYs is because you're in off the open, you get stopped out, you move on with your life. And again, this is another one where if you did take the SPYs longer, for me, I was shorting the VXX today. I forgot to go over that in the meeting. I wasn't doing it with any heavy size, but I called out that I shorted the VXX around 27.75 versus yesterday's high. I mentioned that I was a little bit concerned just because I didn't like how strong the VXX was acting. I don't like when I'm seeing both the VIX and the S&P positive at the same time. Something's got to give. And I feel like most of the time it's the market that gives. Most of the time it's the market that rolls over and not actually the VIX. But for the most part, that doesn't get sustained for too long. We've seen it happen even for a period of a couple of days. And that's been actually a big topping signal in the past, is when we're seeing the VIX positive along with the market positive for like a couple of days straight. We've seen that act as a big topping signal in the past. So I was a little bit nervous. That was one thing I didn't like about it, but I took that trade. I made some money on the way down. I actually re-shorted some into this pop, covered it again at $27. And then I mentioned I wasn't taking it again here, and which was good. I probably would have gotten pushed out of that when it broke highs. But I just didn't like what this market was doing come midday. VIX was making new highs. SPYs were not quite making new highs. So I didn't really feel like reloading that trade and putting kind of that risk back on. But, for the most part, there's not really too much to do here. You shouldn't be fighting your stocks. So you get pushed out of something, you just kind of move on with your life. And, especially midday, don't feel like you need to push it. Don't feel like you need to push it. Thanks, Ben. Thoughts on RTY for Michael? Oh, the Russell. Got you. IWM. Yeah, so the Russell here, I have thought it was actually the best looking index. I still kind of think it is the best looking index right now. It has started showing fairly consistent relative strength since mid-August. I loved what this thing looked like 2 days ago. I was pumped when this IWM gave this close above 225. And obviously yesterday was just such a weak day for the market. They hit everything back down. Today, the TLT was up a little bit, so interest rates were down a little bit, so that usually leads to relative strength for the NASDAQ. That's okay. Even though overall the IWM's been relatively strong compared to the NASDAQ, there's always going to be some flow back and forth, and that's actually a hallmark of a bull market, is when there's constantly money rotation coming in and out of things. All the same, with the massive market weakness yesterday, it put the IWM back into neutral territory from bullish territory. IWM needs to negate, along with a lot of other things, by the way. There are so many charts out there right now, including the IWM, which is still something that I prefer to a lot of the other charts. There are so many charts out there right now that gave us a big negative Maribozu on higher volume 2 days ago. That candle needs to get negated in order for the markets to start looking bullish. So you can almost pick a stock, pick an index. Excuse me. They need to get back above yesterday's high to start looking healthy again. But the IWM doesn't look as bearish to me as like the Qs do right now, right? Even with yesterday's candle, it's just back in this gigantic consolidation that it's been in all year. So what I like from the Russell right now is the relative strength. I don't like the failure from yesterday. I don't like the general broad market weakness that we're seeing. So I don't think I'd be in a rush to put on new risk here to the long side, or really anywhere to the long side right now, except for very selective with certain individual stocks that might have news. That's the benefit, by the way, of trading individual equities or having access to individual equities as opposed to just purely being a futures trader. is that when the market's looking tough, we could focus on some of these individual names that might have news that are giving us an opportunity to trade something that's independent to how the market is actually trading. Because right now, if you're just looking at the SPYs, the Qs, the IWM, I don't think you want to be doing a whole lot of buying. But the Russell's my favorite of the three. It needs to get back above 225. Next here from Ronnie. On the fence about cutting my losses on the Q calls. Well, you're still in it right now. So you're going to be making that assessment tomorrow. Sure. You want to come say hi to everybody real quick on the we got a gentleman we got a special guest here. There's a video camera up there. We got Scott Redler coming to say hello to everybody. And scroll down the VTF. Felipe immediately wants us to do a push-up competition.
Oh shit! Well, I think he's not boxing right now, so I'm okay.
Yeah,
I have a race this week.
Got a little bit fat. Scott's looking great like always.
Not true. Not true. I do have a race in New Jersey this Saturday and then Texas in 3 weeks. So I'm trying to cut down on the drinking and the calories, but I still have about 8 pounds to go to race weight. Anyway, you guys are being taken care of very well by Derrick.
Thanks, Scott.
Friggin' second hardest working man on Wall Street. I don't know who the first is, but he's the second probably.
Yeah.
And
it might. I think you were the second hardest working man on Wall Street.
I'm the second best looking. He's the first.
Okay, gotcha. We'll go with that.
We'll flip the script there.
Okay, so you're giving up training to have a drink with me over at Stone Street? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. Anybody want to come to Stone Street? We're there from 5 to 6:15. Okay, drinks are on Derrick or me. But just if you guys want to come. But bottom line, I heard him talking. Kind of feeble balance today, not much to do. You had to be a surgeon with the gap open to make some money long. They definitely even didn't make it easy short for the first hour and a half. They kept it up before finally reversing it to then it looked like we were going to have that 130 like red dog reversal, Q's below the low, come back up. Then it faded and friggin', no reason to really have much risk on, just be tactical. Just don't get stubborn and don't get, just be patient. Every day you can be like, this is not the setup I want. Oh, this sucks. You know what? Lately, it hasn't been the setup we want, and it has kind of sucked. So it's easy to lose money. And at this point in time, it's just a point in time, and it's friggin' not even October yet. This can go on for a little while longer. Preserve your brain capital. Stay, just stay in the game. This is the time you stay in the game, you lose a little, so when we have an active sequence that's conducive to our style, we put positions on, we put size on, we make money while that is in our favor, and then we feel all good about it as we go into Christmas.
Perfect advice from the Red Dog.
There you go.
Look at that.
All right, I'll see you over at the bar in a little bit.
Superstar.
All right.
All right, boys, we're going to go to get a place outside Stone Street for an hour or so if you want to come eat.
Cool. See you over there in a bit. All right, let me scroll back up here into the VTF, just take care of the remaining questions. Yeah, so back to Ronnie's question. Yeah, as far as cutting your losses on the Q calls, obviously at this point you're waiting for tomorrow because you can't really head out on that after hours in the options market. See how we gap. I would say you really want to see how we gap. If we gap down in a big way, I don't think I actually would cut those right away. I think I actually might look to add off of some sort of opening low. If that opening low is breaking and we're continuing lower, let's call it post like 10:15 a.m. That's when I think is when you got to cut your loss on that. And if we get a gap up tomorrow, a big old gap up tomorrow, which is kind of the situation that no one wants right now. So sometimes the situation that no one wants is what we actually get. Then that might actually be an opportunity to take something off the table. So that's what I think there for you, Ronnie. Next here from Marty. AAP. AAP held lows. Yeah, I like this chart. That's the first thing I would say. Slight volume increase, 220 resistance. Yeah, it's starting to build out a bull flag. It looks like it might need a little bit more time. You got to love the overall relative strength on this stock with what it looks like. Inside day today for it. ADMA is starting to catch up. So these are the things that you could be long. You want to be careful fighting the market on even strong stocks right now. But as long as the market's given us something, then I think you could try to be long this AAP versus today's low tomorrow or through today's high for more of a momentum type trade. Scrolling down here, Michael asking for thoughts on coin. Don't like the stock, don't like the company, don't like the chart, pretty much don't like anything about coin. I've been saying that basically since the IPO. Really just don't like the company's business model. I think it's going to be a race to bottom for commissions here. You're open to regulatory issues. And I've said this in the past also. Don't equate the potential success of crypto with the success of Coinbase. Coinbase is just an exchange. You could have crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else become super successful and Coinbase still not be successful. But if crypto is truly a failure, then this is probably going to be a failure also. So personally, I'd rather be long crypto as a crypto play than Coinbase. Don't like the company, don't like the chart. Broke down further today on a bearish pattern. I think you just want to be out of the way on this one, or potentially even short. I shorted this on the IPO day. My price was like $400. I think I covered my entire position by like $325. Thought I was a genius, and now here we are, $100 lower. So that's coin. Nice, Varun. Good stuff. William here. About a month ago, you said on this channel that Tesla had a broken chart and should be avoided. Yeah, definitely that's changed. So the Tesla chart really changed, and obviously that happens a lot. I don't remember exactly which day it was when I was looking at it where I said it was broken. It definitely could have been one of these days here in mid-August when after it broke down from this more bullish pattern when it was creating this kind of bull flag at $700 and we needed to revisit it. Once this thing was able to recapture $700 on this day and work its way up, if not starting here, then probably starting here, this thing started looking a lot better. And then even more recently, I had a buy trigger on this at 761. So 761 triggered. It gave fantastic follow through from there. We've seen consistent institutional bullish option flow coming into Tesla. Tesla definitely flipped the switch. I'm still not a huge fan of the company itself. SpaceX is really the Musk company I want to be long. But technically this thing started looking a lot better, and it still looks really good. Even now, held up like a champ today. Held up like a champ yesterday also with the NASDAQ weakness. So interestingly enough, the animal spirits are still a little bit alive in Tesla. Sebastian, today you were looking at LCID, okay. Through 27 and then 2730, but I didn't take it because I felt that it was extended. Both work. Can you help me with some thoughts? Yeah, so we spoke about this LCID today, and someone even brought it up as it was approaching highs at $28, and I definitely didn't like it up here. It was just way, way too extended. Was it extended 27? Yes. Was it extended 2730? Yes. But look at the volume. When you got this type of volume, this big, this consistently, look at the volume. Oh my God, it was massive. LCID here has been consistently in play for the last week or so. We know this. And even with it being in play, even with it being continuously on volume that's been high compared to any time in like July or August, the volume today blew it away. So the time that you should be less afraid of buying an extended stock is when you're seeing consistent volume coming in that is this heavy. Because when can an extended stock become more extended? When there's news and when there's volume. You got really both going on here, and for sure the volume. With that said, by the time it got to 28, we know $28 is resistance on the daily chart, and then it's massively extended on every time frame. So someone brought it up at that point. I was like, yeah, I really don't think we could buy this here and now. But just keep that in mind. When you are buying a stock that's extended, you want to see the volume and realize that you are relying on momentum to pay you. And sometimes momentum can pay you, Just make sure you're managing your risk. Brent here telling me to have a couple good days off. I appreciate that. Have you looked at Tesla? Yeah, we just went over Tesla on the hourly. I think Tesla's relative strength looks great. 761 was the spot to buy recently in Tesla. I spoke, I think, yesterday about potentially buying a retest of it, but it didn't pull back deep enough to be able to get it. Inside day today, again, obviously got to pay attention to the market. You want to pay attention to the continued option flow. We want to see the option flow continuing to come into this. That's been so key for this stock. But for now, I think you could try to be long. You know, it's an inside day, so it's creating a bull wedge up here. It might need a little bit more time, but generally I think you could be long versus yesterday's low or long through today's high for momentum continuation in it. Scrolling through the comments, all good stuff. All right, last two questions here from Chris and Raju. First from Chris, EA, the EA chart. What weak market, right? You try to enter at the bottom of the triangle based at the high all day. Let me take a look at the small time frame. So this base here at the high all day is kind of what you're talking about. You try to enter at the bottom of the range, wait for a breakout or something else. I don't do any of those things because of the move that it just had on the daily chart. I see what you're seeing. If you couldn't look at a daily chart and all I could show you was this picture right here of a 5-minute chart from yesterday into today, then you'd be like, all right, great bull pattern that's building out here. But think about how much rest this stock really needs after the move it's given over the course of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Stock's gone from 125 to 138 in 6 days. I don't want to be buying a bullish 5-minute pattern into this move when it's just getting back into some daily resistance here for the first time. Let's be patient on this EA. Let's let it set up a little bit better on the daily chart before we go to it. From Raju, AMD, yeah, I think I mentioned AMD briefly earlier. I don't think we do anything with AMD right now. AMD was just starting to look good 2 days ago. Yesterday's candle broke the chart back down. AMD needs to negate yesterday's candle, meaning it needs to get back above 107.50 in order for it to start looking bullish again to me. Or we should be thinking about, and I should have said this already, we should be thinking about if we start getting a real major breakdown in this market, what are those stocks that you would just love to be able to own in your portfolio at certain prices that you just haven't been able to get those prices in so long? What do you want to buy if the SPYs are at 412? Where is AMD going to be? AMD $85? Is that on the shopping list? Is that at the discount shopping list? I like that. So, you know, let's start maybe building out, you know, a discount back to school shopping list on a real breakdown here for the market. Or otherwise, I think a lot of these charts, AMD being one, the market itself being one, really need to get back above yesterday's high in order to start looking good again. So that is AMD. Some info from Zahor on Tesla we should look at. I've been trying to break out 792 half multiple times today. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Tesla had that all-time high as well back here at about $900. So definitely something to watch. You know, a lot of times you're not getting that small time frame follow-through. You're not getting the small time frame follow-through when the big time frame needs to build out a little bit more, which is exactly what's happening right now. And I still think that this Tesla looks pretty good here, but might need a little bit more. It's just held up so well with the market relative weakness. We want Amazon below $1,000 for our shopping list. I think you're only getting that on a stock split, my friend. All right, gang. Let's call it. Again, not an easy day today, but I think by being tactical, we were able to pick our spots, and it made it a decent day. You guys have a great night. You're going to be in great hands with Pat tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, and on Friday. I might be lurking a little bit in the VTF. I'm definitely going to be trading tomorrow morning, but shh, don't tell anybody. I'm going to be lurking, trying to get some information. Have a great night, everybody. See you next time.